Hi everyone, welcome to iFashi. Today's tutorial will be teaching us how to cut and sew this trendy and stylish blazer dress with shawl collar. It is so beautiful and chic, and it is also very easy to make. So if this is something you're interested in, let's get right into it. Here is the pattern paper that we'll be drafting on. This is our back pattern. We'll be starting with the back pattern first. Then we have the tweed fabric that I'm working with. You can go ahead and use crepe for this project, it's very okay. Now we're starting with the back pattern because we will be using the neckline for the front piece. So now on this back pattern, we have our basic bodies out, our shoulder line, chest line, bust line, waistline, down to the blazer length. So from my shoulder line on the top of my paper, I have 8 inches down to meet my chest line, 10 inches to the bust point, 15.5 for my back waistline, and then I took 9 inches from that waistline down to get my hip line. And also I'm using 38 inches for the full length of these blazers. This length depends on how short or long you want this blazer dress to be. So that is what we've done so far. On the shoulder line, I came in with my shoulder measurement divided by 2 to get this armhole point that we have here. To get the point where your armhole will curve to on your chest line, you're going to take your bust measurement on that chest line. So what we're going to be starting with now is our neck measurement. I'm using 3.3 for my neck width. For the neck depth, I'll use 1 inch because this is the back neck depth. 1 inch is just enough for the back depth. Now after that, on my waistline, from the beginning of my pattern paper, I'll come in with 1 inch because I want to get out that bulge from my back. I want the back to be fitted. So that 1 inch, I'll use my ruler to connect down from that 1 inch upwards to the neckline and downwards to the hip part of the blazer, because we're going to be cutting that part out to make our blazer very fitted on the back side. Now after removing that back bulge, we are going to go ahead and take our waist measurement divided by 4 on the waistline. I'm using 8 inches here, my waist is 32 inches. After taking that, I'll add 1 inch for my dart because I'm going to be taking that for this waist part. This is not our sewing allowance yet. Then on the bust line, you take your bust measurement divided by 4 as well. On the hip line, I'll take my hip measurement divided by 4. I am not adding sewing allowance here. I'll add the sewing allowance when I cut on fabric. So now I'll use my ruler to connect these lines that we marked from the waist to the bust and from the hip to the waist. And after that, we'll go ahead and take our back darts. For the back dart, I'll be using 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll mark 4 inches on my waistline, come down with 1 inch from the bust line down because this is back, and then go down with 6 inches from the waist for the dart extension. I'll connect that with a straight ruler before I'll take the dart on this straight line. Now the 1 inch that we added for the waist, I'll be removing it from this waist. So I'll take half an inch on both sides of this straight line, and then I'll connect it with my ruler. Then with that, we'll have our back darts out. After that, the next thing is to tighten our shoulder. Now to do that, we're going to get the midpoint of this shoulder, of our shoulder line, and I'll mark it out and connect it straight down to meet the bust point, the end of our dart. Now after connecting that straight line, this is what it looks like. We're also going to extend this dart all the way down. So to do that, you're going to take your bust span measurement that you took on the waist, that's nipple to nipple measurement, at the end of your blazer, at the length, the full length of your blazer, then connect it upwards to meet the dart extension that you marked. This blazer is a princess dart. If you want your joining to be on the shoulder, there will be no need to cut your princess dart. You can just have these 2 sides we have here, which is the center back and side back. I want the joining of this my blazer to be at the armhole, which will make it a princess dart. Now before I take that princess dart, we are going to tighten our chest with 0.5 inch. This dart is not very big, but it's very necessary. Now to get the princess dart for the back, I'm going to connect the midpoint of my armhole line to meet my bust point to give us that princess dart. Now with that, we have our center back and side back. The next thing we're going to be taking is the pleating points. As you can see on the picture on your screen, you're going to see that this pleating on the side of this dress doesn't start exactly at the waist or the hip. It's in between. So you're going to determine where you want your pleat to start from. Take your measurement and come down with that measurement from the waistline and mark it out as the gathers point. From that point, your gathers will go down to the full length of your blazer. Now, after marking out that gathers point, you're going to take your hip measurement at the end of your blazer length and connect it to meet your hip line using your curve ruler. Now the next step is to mark out our slash and spread point. Starting from this gathers point, you're going to use your ruler to slant it downwards to meet your center front. Do not let it get to the end of your center front. You can take 5 inches upwards. From the end of your blazer, you can take 5 inches or 4 inches upwards where the gathers point will end. So we've marked out our slash and spread point. For this back, we will not be needing this slash and spread because the one we will cut in front will be cut on fold, so it will go to the back. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut off this my back piece and keep it aside, then go straight into the drafting of the front piece. So after cutting off all the darts that we'll not be needing, we'll keep this aside and draft out the front. Here is the pattern paper for the front piece. We've gotten out our basic measurements as well. To do this, from the beginning of your paper, come down with about 5 inches. You need to leave 5 inches spacing at the top of your paper, and then also come inwards with 2 inches for your button allowance at the beginning of your paper. On your screen, you can see that from my shoulder to my bust line, I have 10 inches like we did for back. Then I have 13 inches for under bust point. Then for the front waistline, I use 17 inches for my front waistline. Remember, our back waistline was 15.5. That's the difference between my front waistline and my back waistline. Also, I went down with 9 inches to get my hip point. I also marked out the gathers point and the full length of my blazer dress. We've also gotten out our armhole curve. So the first thing we're going to be doing on this front pattern paper is to get out our neck measurement. I'm using 3.3 like I did for the back, and for the neck depth as well, we'll also use the same 3.3 inches, and I'll use my curve ruler to connect that neckline out. As you can see, we are starting our measurement from the button allowance, not from the beginning of our pattern paper. So after getting out the neckline, we're going to go ahead and take our darts. For the dart, we are using our bust span measurement, which is nipple to nipple measurement, 4 inches. I'll mark it on the bust line, under bust line, waistline, and then I'll go downwards with 6 inches for the dart extension. And then I'll connect the 4 inches with my straight ruler before we go ahead and take our dart on this straight line. Now for the front waist dart, we're going to be using 1.5 inches. So I'll share it 0.75 on both sides. After marking that out, I'll use my straight ruler to connect it upwards to the bust line and downwards to the dart extension point. And after doing that, we'll go ahead and take all of our body measurements on all of these lines that we've marked out. So the first is our bust line. We'll take our bust measurement on the bust line divided by 4. Remember, you're starting your measurement from the button allowance, not from the beginning of the paper. So you impute your bust measurement on the bust line, waist measurement on the waistline. Remember to add back the dart intake so that you don't get short. After doing that, you connect from your waist upwards to the armhole point through the bust line. Now we'll come to the hip line, take our hip measurement divided by 4, use our curve ruler to connect from that hip point to the waist line. Now we're going to extend our dart down to the blazer length using the same nipple to nipple measurement. We'll now connect it with our straight ruler, then repeat this same hip measurement we took here on the full length of our blazer, and then connect it from the hip line down to the blazer length with your curve ruler. After connecting it, we'll now work on our gathers, the parts that we're going to be slashing and spreading. This is the one we'll be using for both back and front. That's why we did not go into details for the back slash and spread. Now for this slash and spread, remember to come upwards with either 4 or 5 inches, depends on where you want the pleat to stop. After coming up, you now use your curve ruler to make a connection from that gather's point to that 4 inches. I used 4 inches. Then for this part, we're going to be dividing it by 4 or 5, depends on how many pleats you want. So I divided what I have on this paper by 4, so that I'll have 5 pieces at the end of the day. So this doesn't mean that's the number of pleats you will have. It is how you slash and spread it on top of your fabric that will determine the number of pleats that you're going to have. So after this step, we now have our center front and side front. Remember, we're cutting a princess dart. So at the midpoint of this, our armhole line, we're going to connect it down to meet our bust point, so that we will have our princess dart. Now after doing this, we're going to take our side bust darts. Remember, the difference between our front waist measurement and back waist measurement is 1.5. We're going to be removing it from this bust, from the side bust, which means you come down with the difference you have from your back waistline. On my back pattern, we have 15.5 as our waistline, and on the front pattern I have 17 inches as my waistline, so we have 1.5 difference. That's why I came down with 1.5 from my bust line to cut out that part, so that our waist will now align by the time we join back and front. So we'll have our side bust dart out. Now we're going to tighten our chest. We don't want this shoulder to be bulging on your blazer. So to tighten this chest, you're going to determine the midpoint of this your shoulder line and take a 1/2 inch dart. That's 0.5. This 0.5, you're sharing it on both sides. This dart is not very big, but it's also very important. Then add it back to the end of your shoulder. So we're going to cut off this part to tighten that chest part. Now let's go work on our button part. On this button allowance that we took, we're going to come out with 1.5 inch and mark it out with a straight ruler all the way to the end of your blazer length. And then extend your neckline to meet this new 1 inch that we took, because that will be our button extension. Now after doing that, you are going to determine where you want your collar to stop. That's where you want the first button to be. I want mine to be a little bit above the under bust point, so I came up with 1 inch at the under bust line, and I used my straight ruler to connect it to the beginning of my neck width. That is why we have this V out. Now we're going to introduce our back piece and measure what we have on our back neck line. I'll mark that on my tape rule. We have 4 inches. So that 4 inches that I have on my back neckline, I'm going to go up from on my shoulder line. I'll go up with that same measurement I have, and then I'll connect it to meet my neckline with a straight ruler. Now I'm using a red marker to connect this because I will not be following this line. We're going to come out towards the shoulder by 0.5. Then you will now connect it down. This is the line that we'll be following. This will make your collar sit very well. We are not following the first one. We are using this 0.5 that we came out with. Now on this straight ruler, we're going to come out with 3 inches. This depends on how big you want your collar to be. You can use 3.5, you can use 4 inches, but 3 inches is just okay for me. I came out from that end of my back neck depth with 3 inches, and I'll use my slight curve ruler, which is the hip curve ruler, to connect it to meet my neck depth, as you can see on your screen. Now from that neck depth, I'll also use my ruler to also make a connection to meet the end of my collar where the first button will be. So this is the line that we're following. I know we have so many lines, but don't be confused. I'm going to use a red marker now to mark out the lines that we'll be following. So this red marker will mark out the collar, the shoulder, the armhole, the bust line, and all of the lines that we'll be using, so that we don't get confused with our too many lines. Now after highlighting these lines, this is what we have. Our front piece is ready. If you have not subscribed, please remember to hit the subscribe button, because we have come to the end of the drafting of this blazer dress. So we'll just go ahead and cut out now. Please watch closely and see how I'm cutting. When you are cutting, fold in your side bust that, because we are going to be closing it later. Then watch how I'm cutting the rest part of this pattern paper. Remember this chest tightening, we're also going to go ahead and close it down with our tape. Then cut off all of the darts that you will not be needing. Now, after cutting off the side front, this side bust dart will now close. You close it down with your tape and straighten your line on that point. Then that will be that for the drafting of this blazer dress. See how simple it is? Remember to subscribe if you have not subscribed. Like this video and share, because it might be very useful to others out there. Now for the back piece, you're going to also cut out the darts and close down the chest tightening that we also took for the back piece. Now we have our center back and side back, then center front and side front. Like I said before, the slash and spread we did for the back, we will not be needing it, just the one for the front. Remember to cut it on fold so that it will serve for both back and front. Now I'm going to cut off this slash and spread we have for the back and throw it away because we don't need it. We just need this side back piece. This slash and spread for front will serve for both back and front because it will be cut on fold. Now we have our back piece out, the front piece out as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out this slash and spread part because it's going to be cut separately. Now for this part, we're going to tear it open. You can tear it open to the tip. I don't want this pattern paper to get missing. That's why I left it halfway. By the time I'm cutting on fabric, I'm going to open it up because we need to open up this beginning so that it can give us the excess that we're going to pleat. So we'll keep this aside now. I'll go ahead and cut on my fabric and iron estee to the lining. I'm not ironing estee to this fabric because tweed is a very thick fabric. Now this is what we have after cutting. I have 2 pieces of my lining and 2 pieces of my main fabric for both the side back, center back, side front and center front. So for this center front, please endeavor to use your main fabric for the lining of your center front. My fabric was not enough here, that's why I had to do some joinings on that collar point. Use your main fabric because by the time you open your collar, it is the lining that will come out on the collar. Please remember to add your sewing allowance to your fabric when you're cutting because we did not add it to the pattern paper. Now we have our slash and spread parts. I used 2 inches to open up the spread. This depends on how many pleats you want to have. So I also have 2 pieces of lining and 2 pieces of the main fabric. So we're going to go ahead now and start arranging them the way it's going to be joined on the sewing machine. Just like we started our drafting with the back piece, we're also going to be starting our joining with the back piece. So for the back, we're going to arrange it and pin it down the way they're going to be joined on the sewing machine. I'm going to pin down both the 2 pieces of the lining and the 2 pieces of the main fabric the way it's going to be joined. Also, after pinning down that center back, you will now go ahead and pick one of the side back, pin it down starting from the armhole to wherever it stops at the length, because remember the slash and spread will complete the length. So we'll pin down both sides of the side back to the center back that we pinned. We'll do the same thing for our main fabric as well. Then we'll now take it to the sewing machine to join it together. After joining the center back, you join your side back to 2 sides. We'll do this both on the lining and the main fabric, and we'll iron it down as well. After joining, all of these stitches we just made are going to be ironed. Remember, we always iron our seams on this channel. So I'll go right ahead now to join this, and I'll be right back to show you guys. Now this is what we have after joining. I've gone ahead to join the center back together and joined the side backs to the center back, and I've also given it a very good press. All of my seams has been ironed. We'll keep this aside now and work on the front piece. For this front piece, we have the center front and the side front as well. So we're going to remove the pattern paper and the pins and start pinning them together the way it's going to be joined. For this one, just pick one side front and pin it down to the center front. Pick the second side front, pin it down to the other center front. Now you're going to do this on both the main fabric and on the lining as well. Remember, I mentioned earlier that you should use your main fabric as your lining for the center front. This is because by the time you open your collar, it is the lining that will be showing. I did not have enough fabric, that's why I had to join my main fabric to the center front of my lining piece so that this part will come out on the outside when I finish sewing. Now I'm going to do this and then I'll take it to the sewing machine to join, iron, and I'll be right back to show you guys. Now this is what we have after joining and ironing. We have our main fabric and our lining piece as well. We've joined them together and we've ironed all of our seams. So now we're going to be joining lining to lining and joining main fabric to main fabric all together. So now you're going to introduce the back piece of your main fabric and join it together to the front piece on the sides as you see me arranging on the screen. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and join these two sides together. I'll do the same thing for the lining as well. I'll take the back piece of the lining and the front piece of the lining, right sides facing each other, and I'll join them on the sides. And I'll be right back to show you guys. Now after joining them together on the sides, this is what we have. We've also gone ahead to iron these sides. Please always iron whatever you make if you want to have a neat job at the end of the day. Now we're going to go ahead and join the two center fronts together on the collar point. Remember that collar part that went up on the center front piece? We're going to pick two of them together, right sides facing each other, and stitch. So we'll stitch it before we'll now come and join it to the neckline. We'll also take the lining piece, face the two center fronts together and join together. Now this is what we have. This is what I just joined. I did the same thing for the lining and the main piece as well. So I took the center fronts, right sides facing each other, and joined on the collar point before we now join to the neck of the back. Now on this point that you just joined, you're going to make sure the joining aligns with the joining you have on the center back. That point we joined our center back. So after making sure it aligns, you now use your pin to pin it down all through the neck down to the shoulder of your back piece. We're joining the front to the back on the neck and shoulder line. So now when you're joining, you will notice the shoulder points will be difficult to turn. Do this gently. Use your scissors to notch that point, a very small notch, so that it will go easily. Now I've pinned it together. I'll take it to the sewing machine to stitch this neckline. I'll do the same thing for the lining. Pick up the lining piece, this front piece that we've joined together on the collar point, place it right sides facing the back piece of our lining and arrange it with your pin the way it's going to be stitched down on the sewing machine. Now when you get to this shoulder point, give it a notch so that it will go easily. Then after arranging, we'll now take them to the sewing machine to join them, and I'll be right back to show you how it looks after joining the neckline. Now this is what we have after stitching down the neckline through the shoulder. So we're going to open it out. Before we open it out, we're going to notch any part that is curved. You're going to notch it all around the neck and the shoulder, then trim off any excess if you have any excess on that point, so that when you turn it over, it will not look bulky. So after trimming it, you iron it, give it a very good press, and then turn it out to the right sides. And then we've joined our back and our front together on the neck and on the shoulder. So what we're going to be doing now is turning. So we're now going to use our lining to turn the main fabric on this collar point. So we'll be placing them right sides facing each other, and then we'll pin them down together. This is the way we are going to stitch it down on the sewing machine. So this pinning, make sure the stitch you made on the collar neckline is aligned, and then you pin it all the way down to the full length, to the length of your blazer on both sides. Now after pinning it down, we're going to take it to the sewing machine to join. Meanwhile, you can add your hemming gum while you're joining this part so that it will be very firm when you turn it out and iron on the right side. So I'll go and join it now, and I'll be right back to show you guys. Here's what we have. We've joined the lining to the main fabric through the neck, and I added hemming gum like I mentioned before, so that when I flip it out and iron, it will lay very flat. So I'm going to turn it out on the right side now and give it a very good press. Now watch very closely. When you're ironing this part, make sure the seam goes towards the main fabric, so that when you turn your collar at the back, the stitch will not be showing. Remember, it is your lining part that shows when you open your collar. So push the seam towards the main fabric on this neckline down to the end of your collar when you are ironing. So give it a very good press. Now when you get to the end of your collar towards the down part of your blazer dress, you're going to do it the opposite. Turn the seam towards the lining so that the seam will not be showing on the right side of your blazer. Now this is what I mean. On this neckline, push the seam. When I mean seam, the stitch that you made, that line that is showing where you made the stitch, push it towards the main fabric on the collar part, so that when you open your collar, it will face down. The stitch will be on the inside. It will look neat like this. Now on the down part of your blazer dress, push the seam towards the lining, so that when you on the right side, it will be as neat as this. This is what I was trying to explain. Now we've turned our neckline down to the full length of the blazer. What is remaining for us to do now is to fix our sleeve and then attach the gathers piece to this blazer dress, and then that will be all for this. But mind you, this pleated part will be the last thing to do, because we want to be able to fix our sleeve seamlessly. If you close down these gathers parts, you will not be able to enter inside of this dress again, because by then everywhere must have been closed. Even if we were making a short blazer, not a dress, the down part is the last part you close, so that you'll be able to fix your sleeve and turn out everything perfectly. So before we work on the sleeves, the first thing we're going to do now is to pin down the lining to the main fabric of these our gathers pieces and turn it out to the right side. After pinning it now, I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch both of them, and I'll be right back to show you. This is what we have. I've stitched it down on the hem part, not on the part that will be joining to the dress, on the down part. So I'm going to flip it like this and iron as well. You can put your hemming gum on this, it's optional. So after ironing, this is how flat it is laying. This upper part is the part we will be pleating to our blazer dress, and this is how we're going to be doing it. You place it, you notch the midpoint so that you would know exactly the middle that will be attached to the seam. Before we do that, we'll close down this hem of our blazer dress, but like I said before, that will be the last thing that we'll be doing. Let us go ahead and fix the sleeves of our blazer first. Now for the sleeve of our blazer, we have two-piece sleeve that is perfect for blazer, and we have a single sleeve. If you fix your normal sleeve on your blazer, it's going to look very awkward. We have a tutorial on how to cut a two-piece sleeve for suits and blazers, and that's what we are using in this blazer. So the video of the drafting of this two-piece sleeve will be posted right after this tutorial, so that we will know how we achieved this two-piece blazer sleeve. We do not want this video to be too long or longer than it is already. That's why we decided to separate the sleeve drafting tutorial into another video. In the drafting video, we have the front side and the back side. So I'll use my black marker to mark the side that will be facing the back, and then I'll use the red marker to mark the side that will be facing the front. Because it's a two-piece sleeve, it has a particular part that faces the front and the part that faces the back. So we're going to arrange it together now and pin it down. When you're arranging this inner piece to the outer piece, make sure the front of the inner piece and the front of the outer piece aligns. If you don't understand this thing I'm saying, by the time you watch the drafting video of this two-piece sleeve, you understand what I mean by this front and back. As you can see on your screen, I'm using my pattern paper to check which part goes to the front and which parts go to the back, and then I'll mark it with my marker before I'll arrange them right sides facing each other and pin. If you face the back to the front, you're going to have problem. That's why it is good to mark it down first before joining. So I'll go ahead and join this sleeve now, and I'll be right back to show you. Now this is what we have. I've gone ahead to join it. The next thing is to iron it out. Remember, we are always ironing our seam here in order for our job to be very neat. So you open the seam out and give it a very good press. Wherever you make your stitch, iron it very well. Now we have 2 pieces of our main fabric and 2 pieces of our lining. We are going to go ahead now and teach us how to join this sleeve to our blazer. Now we're going to be attaching the lining of the sleeve to the lining of our blazer, and then the main fabric of our sleeve to the main fabric of our blazer. Don't be confused. If you don't understand it clearly, slow down the pace of this video in your settings and watch it again and again. You will get it. Now remember, there is a front side of our sleeve and back side. Make sure that front side is facing the front side of your blazer before you pin it down. Notch the midpoint of the shoulder of your sleeve so that it will align with the shoulder of our blazer. Then pin it all around. Now at this point that we are fixing our sleeve, this is the point where you attach your shoulder pad to your blazer. But I'm just showing you, I will not be attaching shoulder pad to this blazer because tweed fabric is already very thick. If you add shoulder pad to your tweed, your shoulder is going to look very high, like an arrogant person. But if you're working with a crepe, you can go ahead and add your shoulder pad to the shoulder before pinning down your sleeves and stitching your sleeves. Like I said before, arrange it right sides facing each other, notch the midpoint of the shoulder, join it at the shoulder point all the way down to the armhole of your sleeve. Join the lining to the lining, join the main fabric to the main fabric of your sleeves. Then, after joining, I'll be right back to show you guys how we are going to turn the hem of our sleeve. Now, this is the right way to fix your suit. When you're making a suit, this is the right way to fix your sleeve. After pinning it down, pinning the lining to the lining and the main fabric to the main fabric, this is what you're going to have. This is what we are taking to the sewing machine to stitch. I'll do this on both sides and I'll be right back to show you guys. Now this is what we have. I've gone ahead to stitch it. This is what it looks like. I've stitched the main fabric sleeve to the main fabric blazer and the lining sleeve to the lining of the blazer. And now I'm going to turn it out, open it out to the right sides, and we'll have 4 pieces of sleeves. 2 for lining, 2 for fabric. In order for us to turn it out to put the lining inside of the main fabric, you're going to put your hand from the right side of the main fabric and bring it inwards to the lining to push it out like this. Your lining will enter inside of the fabric like this, and you will have 1 sleeve on both sides. Do the same thing on the other side. Now, before we start turning and putting the lining inside of the main fabric, we are going to stitch down the hem of the sleeve together. In order for us to do that, to close down the hem of the sleeve, you're going to open it out on the wrong sides. like this, the way we pinned it before. We're going to open it to the wrong side, turn it out to the wrong sides. Do this on the two of them. Now let the two of the sleeve, the main fabric and the lining, face each other so that we can pin it and go and stitch the hem. Let me take it again. Turn it out on the wrong side. Please do not mistakenly turn the left sleeve to the right sleeve. Left sleeve of lining, left sleeve of main fabric will turn out to the wrong side, and you pin it right side facing each other like I'm doing on the screen. Now please take note of this important thing. When you're pinning it down together like this, you know we have two pieces here. Make sure the inner sleeve of the lining and the inner sleeve of the main fabric are what you're pinning together, so that you don't pin the inner sleeve to the outer sleeve. When you turn it out, you have a problem. Hold it so that the right sides will face each other. You pin it down. This is how we're going to be stitching it. It will now be facing each other like this. Then we'll go and stitch it on the sewing machine. Do this on the other side as well. Bring it out on the wrong side, pin it down to face each other, and stitch. Now this is what we have after stitching. I've stitched the two of them together. You'll be wondering how are we going to bring it out. What we'll do now is to go to the right side of our blazer, put your hand through the main fabric down to the lining, and then bring it out. And this is what you have. Your sleeve is set. Your two-piece sleeve is set. This is how you make your blazer or suit sleeve. Now remember, when you're cutting your sleeve, make sure your lining is shorter than your main fabric, so that when you turn it open like this, the lining piece will enter inside of the main fabric. So this is what I have. My sleeve is looking very beautiful. You're going to go ahead and give it a very good press now, especially on that part where you joined the lining to the main fabric on the hem of your sleeve. Our sleeve is set and looking very beautiful already. Now this is a blazer sleeve. If you want to go ahead and put a normal sleeve for your blazer, is totally your choice, but trust me, making a suit with a suit sleeve and making a suit with a normal one-piece sleeve, they are not mates. They are not the same. So now that we're done with our sleeves, we're going to go ahead now and turn this down part. Place it right sides facing each other like this and stitch both on the back and the front before we add the part that we're going to be pleating. So I'm going to stitch it now and I'll be right back. Now this is what we have. I've stitched down the hem of the back piece and the hem of the front piece as well. I've also stitched down the opening, which is holding down both the lining and the main fabric together. So I'm going to go ahead and iron, and then I'll place the piece that we'll be pleating on top of it, right sides facing each other. Remember, we came up with 4 inches, so I'll give that 4 inches a notch so that I'll know where my pleat will start from. This 4 inch will be stitched straight. We are not pleating that point, so I'm pinning it down so that we will know where the pleat will start from. Now after pinning down that 4 inches that we will not be pleating, the next part you will notch is the midpoint of this fabric, so that it will align with the joining we have on our blazer, the sides of our blazer. Now you're going to have excess because it was cut, slash and spread, right? Then that's the part we are going to be pleating on this part to give us that side gathers. Like I said before, tweed does not really pleat as much as crepe would do because it's a very thick fabric. So this is what I have after gathering my side gathers to the blazer bodies. And then it's looking like this is the only part that I'll be weaving. Every other part is turned. I've gone ahead to attach my buttons and I've done the buttonhole. I'll give it a very good press now and I'll put it on for you guys to see the beautiful blazer dress that we just made. If you have not subscribed, please remember to subscribe and like this video. Here is the result of what we just made together, guys. It's so beautiful. Trust me, this video is not even doing justice. This dress is the prettiest dress I've made in a while. So guys, like this video, share this video, let us know in the comment section what you'd like us to be making in our next tutorial. Thank you for watching to this point. We've come to the end of today's tutorial. Remember to subscribe and I'll see you in our next tutorial. Bye.